Welcome to Beer Stories for Private Equity. Join us for our weekly happy hour, tapping into 27 years of PE experience, one pint at a time. Beer Stories for Private Equity is powered by Monogram Group.
Today, we're joined by Kris Kluver at kriskluver.com.
And for Monogram Group, here's your host, Scott Markman.
Please fasten your seatbelts.
I'm going to share with you and our listeners a little bit of what we're doing, what I'm doing with the agency. I'm in the midst of scaling this agency because we have a massive market opportunity. And I'm like Colonel Sanders, who started at KFC at 60. I'm a little older than that, but it's the same thought, which is I spent a lifetime waiting for the right moment. The moment's now. And so we're in sort of starting year 2 of a 5-year plan to scale and to reinvent and to push into boundaries that I don't think any agency is touching right now, because we have this unique intersection of skills and market focus and market opportunity and ambition. And I'm already talking with my team about, I think at some point in this journey, I will not be the right CEO. I think that the needs will outstrip what I am best to lead with, and I'll have to reinvent my own job title and bring in somebody else to kind of do that, because what's going on will be beyond my experience base. Everything you said about buying into the vision, firing people up and laying the groundwork, having the process and building a unique something, I'm great at that. But I'll call it the mechanics of quarter 1, quarter 2, year 2, year 3 or 4, and all that goes with that is probably could be beyond what I'm the best person at.
Traditionally, when I've seen somebody who's in your seat with that and they run it, they can do it for a while, but to be candid, it ends up porpoising. Hey, it goes really, really, really well. And it's like, wow, what's that over there? This is more exciting. And I need it. Like, oh shit, they need me. And I come back in. So this is where clarifying what amazing looks like in that seat. And I would encourage you to get that person sooner rather than later. Because your highest and best use is the giant vision, making sure everybody understands that and what amazing looks like, and then elephant hunting and talking in big relationships and getting and communicating and doing this kind of thing where people have that awareness. This is one of the dirty secrets that I see over and over and over. One of the biggest things that hold leaders back is their own consciousness and subconsciousness around giving themselves permission to not do things. And what I mean by that is just because you can doesn't mean you should. And if your default is head down, work harder, pot calling the kettle black here sometimes, but this is where figuring out where that innovation is going to come from. You have that unique gift to see those things and maybe come up with overarching strategies on some of the creative stuff. But this is where I'm really pushing my team members to start taking time and stepping away and thinking. The analogy I like to use is if you're standing under the shower, if you ever stood under the shower for just an extra 3 minutes, let the water roll over your head. Inevitably, that's when those ideas come in, that pop in. It's just like, oh my God, if I do that, or holy crap, I'll do. So I believe that our subconscious is one of our most powerful tools, and we get in its way all the time because of all the noise in the world.
When I mentioned before that we live in the world of gray, and we live in the world of ideas. For me, and probably other agency owners, the hardest is to apply that kind of thinking and medicine to yourself. I'm about 6 months into that. And, we are making some serious ass breakthroughs right now around the envisioning of who are we, what is our expertise, and how do we have the people and the technology to go describe it, sell it, and execute it. And we're taking everything that we're doing in the world of private equity and portfolio companies to a whole other level right now. And that's the story of 2025. And it's exciting. It's a tightrope act. We're a little bit flying the plane as we're building it, a little bit.
Well, and normally what I see is people start to embrace this idea. Like I schedule 3-4 hour blocks a week, my chief of staff does. So I go screw around the woods and bike or hike or whatever. To me, that's highest and best use of my time. But the thing is, though, is we have to get very, very mechanical when we start handing those things off. Because I've had people, oh, well, yeah, Kluver said I should just go fuck off. It's like, no, that is not what I said. Yeah, you guys are in charge. And we throw the keys and say, hey, kid, drive it like you stole it. And then the senior leader gets pissed off that things are in the ditch. No, we very intentionally build mechanics so that we figure out where we want to go and how we're going to do that. My biggest objective is to transition a team from a reactive state to a proactive state. When we can get an entire leadership team with great vision, right people, right structure on a proactive state, it's going to empower them to start saying no a shitload more, capitalize on the opportunities that are there, and they're going to drive revenue like nobody's business. But it's when we're constantly reacting, hoping that we can have this. Hope is a really crappy strategy. That's where let's take a step back, figure out where we want to go, then we're going to build that strategy around it.
I want to pivot just slightly
Yeah.
to a blog post that I saw in your website that I wanted you to kind of just touch upon a little bit. It's called Stop Accepting Low IRR, 5 Steps to Accelerating Profitability in Newly Acquired Businesses. And there are 5 aspects that are identified and kind of addressed to a little bit be attacked. So I wanted you to share that with our listeners a little bit, because I thought that what you wrote in there was very applicable to all of them, regardless of circumstance.
Can we pivot? It's known this is specifically for private equity. Let's pivot it specifically around sort of that and the J curve.
Yes, please go.
So, and everybody knows about the J curve, the idea that it's acceptable to lose money for 3 to 5 years before your acquisition actually becomes cash flow positive. As an entrepreneur, when I heard that, my head exploded. When I've worked with some of the companies that we've actually scaled to those huge market caps, we actually put in that we wanted to have full 100% return, meaning we paid for that acquisition in 3 years. And for a couple of them, that was our total target on that. A few years back, I went to a huge private equity conference, and I went down there for 3 reasons. I wanted A, to understand the language. What is the language that people are using? B, I wanted to see candidly, is this a group of people I want to work with? And C, I wanted to identify what is the primary issue that people are facing. And to me, I think it was around that J curve. Well, interest rates were low then, and people were fine with the J curve because you can do, there are certain mechanics you can do with that. But when you start looking at the 8% interest and you start looking on leverage money, it's a lot harder to make your mechanics work. And you actually have to make the business run better. So as an operator with over 35 years of experience, and I still have 6 companies that I run, I look at these numbers and my heads explode. So I was curious why. Why is this happening? And why is it acceptable? So when we have private equity and then we have the acquired, we have 2 sides of one coin. And the acquired, usually these people are incredibly hardworking. They have a lot of legacy knowledge. They're really smart, but they aren't very financially sophisticated. And this is their first time doing an acquisition. On the flip side, you have private equity folks, and these guys are really smart, really hardworking. They have no legacy knowledge, but incredible sophistication. And to me, what happens is there ends up being a friction between those 2 things. And that's one of the key things. Now, I understand when we do acquisitions, there's a certain about how we structure it and front end load our fees and things like that. And maybe it's going to take a hit for a little while. But to say that we're going to be okay with a hit for 3 to 5 years, and I've seen this over and over and over and over, where there's a big communication gap. So I think that the financing and the financial metrics and the structure and the financial acumen is imperative for success to happen. It's one voice, one language. But the reality is a lot of times the companies that are being acquired, they don't understand that language. And they're not given the space, and they're actually kind of chastised if they don't know what those words mean. What do you think? You've seen a lot of this. Where does your head go with that?
Well, in the work that we do, which starts with a brand foundation and a vision and a strategy, agreeing to what you're going to build and why for the greatest exit, and how you're going to get there, and through the filter or the prism of a brand and go to market activities, and sort of positioning a company as it's being grown and merged together with lots of other companies. Because, to your point, the roll-up dimension, whether it's 2 acquisitions or 20, is the central aspect of the portfolio company work that we are brought in on. And solving for complexity and ambiguity, getting consensus, and then figure out a way to take it to market both customers and prospects, but also channel partners, suppliers, current and future employees, the next acquisition. They all are key audiences. It's constantly, flying to places, you're building it kind of stuff. But using brand as a way to organize and centralize and streamline and make more powerful and effective as the company goes to market, because they have to raise revenue, they have to raise EBITDA, because that's the holy grail of this stuff, to monetize all this so that when you exit, it's the highest EBITDA and the highest multiples of EBITDA. And so using brand to achieve that, there are many streams that are kind of coming together, software and supply chain and all that kind of stuff. But brand is a way to think about the macro, both internal and external, and to the side. That's the work that we are brought in for. And so a certain amount of what you're describing was talking different language between founders and financial professionals. We kind of live the same situation, just through the aspect of brand, which is, who are you? What are you the best at? Why you? What are you going to do for people? How do you then go sell that? How do you monetize it? That's the work that we do, but it's a kissing cousin of what you just said.
Oh, very much. And I've probably known 150 people who've had earnouts. Vast majority of people who sign up for an earnout don't get it, because they get burned out, because the communication sucks, because they don't understand what they're talking about, because they're not on the same page for what success looks like. So inevitably, the acquired, well, you guys are the fancy degrees and you've got all this money. You guys must know what you're doing. What do you want? And they just say, okay. And then 3 months in, they're like, what the hell you guys made? This is stupid decisions. You haven't asked us any of this stuff. We tried 4 of these things, and it didn't work because of this and this. And they're not collaborating. They haven't clearly defined in unison, what does success look like? And yes, 90% of the time, EBITDA is the holy grail. But in certain cases, maybe we're looking at acquisitions. Maybe we're doing roll-ups, especially in some of the really high-tech stuff. Maybe it is all about users. And maybe we are, damn the torpedoes, we'll throw fire on it. It's a gold rush to whoever can get the most users in this area. And we know that it's a user race, and we're okay making that investment, knowing where we're coming. So part of it is the communication. Coming up with the common language. You would not believe, I worked with a huge nonprofit university group. And one time we spent almost an hour and a half discussing, are they donors? Are they customers? Because we're all using these different languages. How do we invest that time so we're all on the same page of what we're trying to do? And also understanding why we're doing these things. If private equity would invest 3 minutes and say, hey, this is why we're looking at these, because of this and this, and this is the intention, and based on this, this is how we're going to use these things going forward. Great. But yeah, you need to have budgets, send it to me. Well, we've never done budgets. Well, we'll teach you how, but you have to do a budget because boom, boom. It's like, okay. It's like these edicts come from on high rather than a collaborative effort to define what amazing looks like. So making sure that we have that respect and communication, that we start using a common language, we start figuring out what success looks like. I think another piece that's really important is realizing that usually we have very different mindsets that we're coming from. I just worked with a group on this with PE firm. They've been acquired. They're doing incredibly well. They've got 30% margins, but they have been entrepreneurial and bootstrapped their entire life. So for them, thinking outside of this is the money we have to invest this year, this is how we've always grown, this is how we've always done it, is really, really uncomfortable. Versus private equity, if private equity is honest, they're saying, holy shit, we have this much money in this fund that we have to make sure is deployed in the right way. You give us a clear, rational reason on where we can deploy these resources, and we'll give you whatever you need. But it's going from bootstrap mentality, entrepreneurial, earn their way up, to we need to quantify it, but Big Brother's got all the money you need. Go out and deploy those resources. So it's starting to shift how people are thinking in those areas, because normally the acquired has tremendous amount of very trusted, deep relationships in that arena. They may be very, very involved in even going to DC and understanding what are the political winds doing? What are the implications out there? They're looking further downfield that help them say, well, geez, yeah, if we had an extra 300,000 or 3 million or 30 million, and we could deploy that in the right way, that's going to allow us to pivot and be here in the future. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but if you can get them thinking that way, it's a very, very different way when it comes to how are we deploying resources rather than just sitting on them. But it's a cultural approach.
You just described a kind of argument around, you want me to work with a marketing agency? What are they going to do for us? How much is it going to cost? When do I get my return back? To your point about, we have strategies and priorities and we have the capital to do this, and you guys need it, but you haven't done it before, and there's a certain degree of unfamiliarity and lack of trust, and to undertake such an endeavor because it's going to lead us into the promised land. And so sometimes we are stuck between the PE folks, the operating executives, and the founders to agree that we should be one of the top 3 or 4 priorities, and we're going to deliver incredible benefit to them. And there's a certain degree of kind of trust built into even starting. But to get brought in, sometimes it can take a while, and there's a certain amount of conversations in boardrooms around, we should do this and we should bring these folks in.
So there's an idea, there's the concept of outcome bias versus decision bias. So if I would say, dude, Scott, what were some of the best decisions you made during COVID? You're likely not to tell me the best decisions. You're likely to tell me the best outcomes. During that time, you may have made great decisions, but something clobbered it, or maybe it didn't get executed in the right way, or something else happened. The vast majority of companies who've been acquired have been through, and there is an unbelievable distrust of marketing in most entrepreneurial organizations because they've tried it. The outcome didn't work the way they thought it was going to work. Now, it doesn't mean it was wrong to hire them. It was the right decision, but the outcome didn't work the way they thought it would. So they have an outcome bias. They say, well, shit, we tried that. We're not doing it again. We got burned.
Yes.
And I think in your particular case, figuring out how you reframe what you're doing and the outcomes you're driving and the metrics associated with it, so they know they're successful. Because if you can help them understand, it's like, no, we're not a marketing company. What we're going to do is we're going to accelerate your growth. Well, okay, well, how are you doing that? But it's that reframe, because all of us have this outcome bias. It might have been the right thing to do, but they had the wrong person implementing it, or they did it in the wrong way, or they got bit in the ass by luck. That can help reframe how they're looking at those. But again, that's one of the challenges, is once we have that vision, yeah, well, we're not going to do that though. Why not? And that's where, for me, fearlessly giving first for the betterment of others, challenging them. Because is it the right decision? Or did we get bit in the ass before?
We are leaning not away from marketing, but beyond marketing into go-to-market sales enablement, because not only is it more immediate, it's more tangible, it's more familiar. And we all know that sales and marketing are tied at the hip, right? Marketing is one to many and selling is one to one. So we are leaning into and augmenting our focus and our deliverables around just go-to-market and bring in the bacon, baby, because that's going to deliver more tangible, quicker, and familiar success, right? I won that contract. We increased our leads, and we sold for a higher price and still won the gig. That's what are the 2 benefits of a strong brand? You get to raise your prices and don't lose customers, and you get to answer the question, what else can I sell you? I want to start to bring this to a close, because while this conversation has been brilliant, Kris, I think we're probably having some tired people on the treadmill right now. So I always end with a few things about your family and what you'd like to do most outside of work.
Well, unfortunately, my wife and I weren't able to have kids. So it's my wife and I, and we live about 100 miles west of Denver, buried in the woods. She likes to run ultramarathons, which I don't quite understand. I like to spend time on my bicycle. We do a lot of adventure travel. We just celebrated our 25th wedding anniversary, and we went back to the Antarctic and the island of South Georgia, and that was extraordinary. Wow. Yeah, amazing. Wow.
So as a fellow Colorado Rocky Mountain guy, my wife and I are out there 6 times a year, and I've been to Leadville several times. What is A, your favorite ski field, and B, your favorite season in Colorado?
I took about a 20-year hiatus because I had my hip and my knee replaced. And then I started doing ultra marathons and things after I had those done because that's just unreasonable. But we have a little ski area here that I just love called Cooper. It's an old school gravel parking lot, but you know everybody there. It's 15 minutes from the house. It's got backcountry gates, so if you want to do AT skiing, you can ski the backcountry gates and get back in there. If I have quiet time, I prefer to be by myself. If I can just go for a long cross-country ski or backcountry ski, or that seems to light me up more than anything around here. And that's one of the main reasons is I can go for 4 or 5 hours and not see anybody, which is great. Best season, I gotta say here, I love the summer, man. Summer and the fall. But I am happiest if I got my ass in the saddle and I'm riding my bike with and hammering through books or podcasts and just being out there because it's so beautiful.
Well, sir, I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm so appreciative of your time and your candor and your insights, and hopefully that our listeners are as well.
Well, Scott, thank you very, very much. And hopefully if anybody needs anything, I'd be more than happy to talk to them.
From all of us at Monogram Group, thanks for tuning in to Beer Stories for Private Equity,
Episode 22.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and you'll be notified as we release new episodes. Please check out the show notes in the description from today's episode. Our email is podcast@monogramgroup.com. Feel free to email us with any comments or questions, and we'll try to answer them in our next episode.